This is Jersey's morning show, Jersey Central with Bert Barron, and it starts now.
It's 7:09. Welcome to hour number 2 of Jersey Central on this Monday morning on the new Talk Radio 1450 WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey. It is Bert Barron. Good morning to you. 732-545-9282 is our number. Toll free from anywhere, 888-545-9282. Our video simulcast is live at WCTCAM.com. We're on your smartphone as well. Download the WCTC app, or you can look for us on iHeartRadio or tune in. We'll do our contest a little bit later on in this hour. Got your chance to win some tickets to see the Rutgers football team in action this Saturday, going for win number 1 of the season. They're going to take on Morgan State at 3:30. We'll have your chance to win some tickets coming up a little bit later on this hour. Let's get right to the Jersey Central Newsmaker hotline, and we'll go to Naples, Florida. A special guest who is with us here, a 30-plus New York City news veteran. You know him from radio and television, also an author of a fantastic book. Frank Cipolla, who does a great job of bringing some very great guests to this radio station and to this particular program, is in Naples and is joining me now this morning just to kind of give a firsthand assessment of his experiences there. Frank, good morning. It's Bert Barron, and first things first, my man, thank you so much for making yourself available, and so glad you're safe.
You're very welcome. We're one of the 3.5 million people without power here in Florida. It was quite a storm, Bert. I covered Hurricanes Isabella and Floyd when I was at News 12 New Jersey. All of us lived through Sandy, of course, and this was all of that times 10. A terrible storm, just a terrible storm.
Wow. Talk about just some of your observations. I don't know if it's daybreak yet in Naples, Florida, where you are, but the city you had mentioned is there's a lot of construction. It's a city that's very much in growth mode, so there's construction, and there's probably going to be a lot of debris once the sun comes up. And just your initial assessments of damage that you've been able to see to this point.
Yeah, let me just give you some background. Naples is right across from Fort Lauderdale on the West Coast. It is a very small community. It's very quaint, very charming, has a wonderful downtown area, which I'm told this morning was pretty much spared by the storm surge, and that is very good news. It's an area with upscale stores and restaurants and so on and so forth. I stepped out a moment ago. There's significant flooding in the street. There's significant flooding on the major thoroughfares. There are trees down. You mentioned construction. They predict between 500,000 and 1 million people will move to Naples in the next 10 years or so. We have a little small, modest vacation home here. And I must tell you, a lot of these construction sites were left hastily as the workers took care of their families. And I can only imagine that a lot of this debris became projectiles as these storms hit. Listen, we were in the most secure part of this little condominium, which was a small hallway, and my back was up against the wall. This is construction that is 3 feet of concrete on each side, and I could feel the walls moving from these 100-plus mile-an-hour winds.
Wow.
That's how significant the storm was.
Unbelievable. And when you just look at sort of the layout of Naples and where it is logistically there on the west coast of Florida, and a pretty vibrant city. 2 years in a row voted as one of the happiest and healthiest cities in America. But it's going to take a while before this and everywhere in Florida kind of bounces back and gets any sort of semblance of normalcy, I would think, for a while, Frank.
Well, I could, I agree with you 100%. The situation with Naples is the beautiful thing about it is people move here primarily from the Midwest. It has a different kind of vibe to it. It's a little younger. It's not the East Coast for people who have visited the East Coast. It's not as built up and it's not as urban as the East Coast. And it does not like to bring attention to itself. The last thing people in Naples wanted was to be on the front page of every newspaper and on every single broadcast. And that's the thing about Naples. People come here not only to sort of relax and retire, and that's not me. We just have a small vacation home here. But they also like the quaintness of it and the small community of it. And this really has brought us into the spotlight for those people who live here. It's also caused some destruction, which is unfortunate. There are 4 people who have died because of the storm, not in Naples, but in Florida. But it could have been a lot worse, I guess, and we're just sort of recovering today. As I mentioned, I stepped out a moment ago. It's still cloudy and overcast, and it's a bit windy, but the rain has left. But there's still significant flooding around.
All right. Frank Cipolla is with us. He's live in Naples, Florida this morning. Frank, I know we only have about 30 seconds or so left. What are you hearing in terms of perhaps getting airplanes back in the air and getting some mass transit and getting things moving again in Naples? Are we still several days away from even considering that?
I think the first thing we have to do is get power back. The power stayed until about 6 o'clock last night and then went off. In addition to everything else, Bert, it was very warm yesterday. It's very warm today. So there'll be people in their condominiums, people in their homes without any air conditioning, and that's going to be a concern as well as the people who are in these shelters. So it's going to be a while before we recover from all of this. Naples does. But, we thank everybody for thinking about us. We're doing the best we can down here.
Of course. And thank you, and thank goodness you're safe, and thank you for making yourself available, veteran newsman and author Frank Cipolla. Thank you. Be safe, my friend, and stay in touch and update us as we kind of go through the week if you can, all right?
Okay, Bert, thank you for having me on.
All right, thank you. All right, Frank Cipolla, my guest.